There's a habit that seems small on the surface, but can completely destroy the way you're seen in a man's eyes, and more importantly, how you see yourself. That habit is over-apologizing. You know what I mean? When the first thing out of your mouth is, sorry. For bumping into someone at the grocery store, sorry. When you didn't respond to a text right away, sorry. For asking a question in a conversation, even sorry. When you've done absolutely nothing wrong. It becomes a reflex, a default way of communicating, and with each unnecessary apology, you silently chip away at your value. Here's the truth. Apologizing is powerful when it's genuine, when it comes from accountability and self-awareness. But when, sorry, becomes your most common word, it sends an unspoken message that you are always at fault, always in the wrong, always needing permission to exist. Think about that for a second. Every time you apologize when there's no need, you're essentially shrinking yourself to make others more comfortable. And in relationships, especially with men, that habit is quietly telling him that your needs, your opinions, and even your presence are secondary. Men, whether they realize it or not, are constantly picking up cues about how much you value yourself. If you apologize for speaking up, you're teaching him that your voice doesn't carry weight. If you apologize for taking up time, you're teaching him that his schedule, his priorities, and his comfort matter more than yours. And over time, he stops seeing you as an equal and starts seeing you as someone who will always fold, always give in, always say sorry, before she even fights for herself. That's not respect. That's permission for him to take you for granted. Now, some people think over-apologizing makes them polite, but let me be real with you. It doesn't. It makes you invisible. Politeness is saying, thank you, when someone helps you, showing gratitude or offering kindness. Over-apologizing, on the other hand, is like saying, I'm sorry for being here. And the moment you apologize for your very presence, you give away your power. A man can't respect someone who doesn't respect herself. Let's flip it around for a second. Imagine being with someone who apologized for every little thing. Sorry I spoke. Sorry I took too long. Sorry I asked for help. After a while, wouldn't that start to feel exhausting? Wouldn't it make you see them as insecure, unsure, or even fragile? That's the lens a man begins to see you through when your life is filled with needless apologies. You think you're smoothing things over, but what you're really doing is lowering your value. So, what's the alternative? The alternative is owning your space. Instead of, sorry for being late, try, thank you for waiting. Instead of, sorry for asking a dumb question, say, I'd like some clarity on this. Instead of, sorry for bothering you, shift it to, do you have a moment? Those small shifts in language send a massive message. You're not apologizing for existing, you're engaging with confidence. You're not bowing down, you're standing beside, and that is what earns respect. Confidence doesn't mean arrogance. It doesn't mean never apologizing when you've truly made a mistake. Real confidence is knowing the difference between accountability and self-erasure. When you've genuinely done wrong, apologize quickly, sincerely, and completely. But when you're simply asking a question, expressing a thought, or taking your rightful place in the world, don't diminish yourself with an apology. Stand tall in your words. Men respect women who hold their ground. Not because they're trying to dominate, but because respect is born from equality. When you over-apologize, you place yourself beneath him. When you speak without apologizing for existing, you place yourself beside him. And that's where true connection happens. Here's the challenge. Start paying attention to how many times you say, sorry. In a day, you'll be surprised. You'll catch yourself apologizing for someone else bumping into you, for sending a text, for asking for something that's completely reasonable. And every time you catch it, pause and reframe. Replace sorry with gratitude or with a simple direct statement. You don't owe the world an apology for being alive. You don't owe a man an apology for taking up space in his life. The bottom line is this: your words shape the way others see you. If your words constantly paint you as someone who is wrong, inconvenient, or less important, then people, including the man in your life, will start to believe that story. But when your words reflect self-respect, when you carry yourself with the quiet assurance that you have nothing to apologize for unless you truly did wrong, then your value rises instantly. So stop apologizing for being here. Stop apologizing for being you. The right man doesn't need your endless apologies. He needs your presence, your voice, your confidence. And the moment you give yourself permission to stop saying, sorry, for everything, you'll notice something powerful. Not only does he respect you more, but you respect yourself more, and that is where true value begins. There is a huge difference between pursuing love with confidence and chasing it out of fear. Too many women confuse the two, and the result is the slow erosion of their value in a man's eyes. Chasing looks like constant texting, always initiating, always proving yourself, always bending your life around his schedule, and always being the one to remind him of your worth. But attraction, real attraction, is the opposite. It doesn't beg. It doesn't push. It draws in naturally because it radiates strength, dignity, and self-assurance. When you chase, you tell a man two things without saying a word. One, that you don't believe he would choose you on his own, and two, that you don't believe you're enough without constant effort to convince him. And here's the truth. People rarely value what they don't have to earn. If a man never has to pursue you, if you hand yourself over without him investing, he may enjoy the attention for a while, but deep down, he doesn't respect it. Respect is built when both people put effort into earning and keeping each other's presence. Think of it like this. Imagine being given something for free that others have worked hard to achieve. At first, you might be excited, but quickly the value drops. You didn't have to fight for it. You didn't have to sacrifice anything for it. That's exactly how chasing works. The harder you push to keep a man's attention, the easier it is for him to take you for granted. Why? Because he didn't have to step up. He didn't have to show you he was worthy of your time. He didn't have to invest in building a connection. And without investment, there is no deep respect. Attraction, on the other hand, doesn't require effort. Attraction is when you know who you are, you live your life with passion, and you refuse to lower your standards just to make someone stay. It's when you create space for a man to step up, rather than doing all the stepping for him. A woman who is attractive in the deepest sense is the woman who can sit in her own power and say, I don't chase, I attract. If it's meant for me, it will align. If it's not, I won't beg for it. That kind of energy pulls the right men in without you having to force anything. Some people fear that if they stop chasing, they'll lose him. But let's be honest, if the only reason he's around is because you're doing all the work, do you really have him? Or do you have the illusion of him? A relationship built on chasing is one-sided. It becomes a cycle where you're exhausted, constantly pouring in energy, while he contributes very little. That's not love. That's imbalance disguised as connection. The most magnetic women are not the ones who run after men. They are the ones who are so focused on their own lives, their goals, their friendships, and their passions that a man feels privileged just to be let into that world. She doesn't give all her attention away instantly. She allows him to earn it. Not through manipulation or games, but through the natural balance of respect. Men are to step up when something matters. If you're always stepping in for him, you rob him of the chance to prove himself. Let's make it practical. The next time you feel the urge to send 3 texts in a row because he hasn't replied, pause. Ask yourself, am I chasing or am I holding space? The next time you want to cancel your own plans to match his availability, stop and consider. Does this show my value? Or does it show I'm afraid of losing him? Those small decisions create a pattern. When you stop chasing and start respecting your own time, you communicate one powerful truth, and I am worth pursuing. And when a man senses that, the dynamic shifts completely. This doesn't mean you played hard to get or hide your interest. It means you balance interest with self-respect. You show you care, but you don't overextend. You give space for reciprocity. You allow him to invest, because without his investment, there is no foundation. When you chase, you're sending energy outward, begging for recognition. When you attract, your energy pulls inward, and people naturally gravitate to that. Men fall deeply for women they respect, and respect is never born from desperation. Respect comes from equality, from a woman knowing she is valuable with or without him, from a woman who doesn't crumble if he doesn't respond fast enough or doesn't rearrange her entire life to fit his. That independence is not threatening, it's magnetic. So stop running after someone who isn't running toward you. Stop proving your worth to someone who hasn't even earned your effort. The right man doesn't need to be chased, he needs to be inspired. And inspiration comes not from a woman who gives everything away freely, but from a woman who knows her value and is unafraid to stand still, letting him rise to meet her. One of the fastest ways to lose your value in front of a man is by tolerating disrespect. Disrespect rarely shows up as one big, obvious act in the beginning. It often sneaks in quietly, in small ways you dismiss, excuse, or tell yourself aren't that serious. Maybe it's a comment he makes that belittles you in front of others, and instead of calling it out, you laugh it off. Maybe it's when he ignores your feelings and tells you you're overreacting, and you let it slide because you don't want to seem too emotional. Maybe it's when he constantly shows up late, cancels plans, or forgets important things, and you convince yourself that he's just busy. Each time you swallow that discomfort, you teach him something important, not about who he is, but about what you'll accept. People treat you according to the standards you set. If you draw a line and someone steps over it without consequence, that line means nothing. And when a man realizes he can disrespect you without losing access to you, he loses respect for you. Respect cannot survive where boundaries are weak. A man might still enjoy your company, he might still take advantage of your kindness, but deep down, he will not hold you in high regard if you allow him to cross lines without accountability. The tragedy is that many women tolerate disrespect not because they don't notice it, but because they're afraid of losing the man if they speak up. They think, if I confront him, he'll leave. If I stand up for myself, he'll think I'm difficult. If I demand more, maybe he won't want me anymore. But here's the reality: by tolerating disrespect, you're already losing him. Not in the physical sense, but in the emotional sense. You're losing his respect, his admiration, and the chance for a real, balanced connection. Love without respect is not love, it's dependency. Think about the women you admire most. They're not the ones who allowed people to walk all over them. They're the ones who knew their worth, who spoke up when something felt wrong, who walked away from situations that compromised their dignity. That strength didn't make them less lovable. It made them magnetic. Because a man knows, consciously or unconsciously, that a woman who refuses to accept disrespect is a woman of high value. Disrespect comes in many forms. It's not just cheating or lying, though those are obvious. It can be dismissive body language when you're speaking, interrupting you constantly, mocking your ideas, ignoring your boundaries, or expecting you to do all the emotional labor in the relationship. When these things happen and you excuse them, you slowly condition yourself to believe that your needs are secondary. Over time, you begin to internalize the message that maybe you don't deserve more. That's the silent danger of tolerating disrespect. It doesn't just affect how he sees you, it affects how you see yourself. The moment you decide not to accept disrespect anymore, everything changes. It doesn't mean you explode in anger at every small offense. It means you calmly and firmly call it out. It means you communicate, "That doesn't work for me," or "I expect more than this." And if the behavior continues, it means you have the courage to walk away. That act, choosing to walk away rather than stay in a cycle of disrespect, immediately raises your value, not just in his eyes, but in your own. Because you've proven to yourself that you are not afraid of being alone if the alternative is being mistreated. Some will say, "But what if he leaves when I demand respect?" And the answer is simple: then let him leave. The right man will never be scared away by your standards. The wrong man will. That's how you separate them. Your boundaries are not punishments, they are filters. They filter out those who don't have the maturity, character, or willingness to meet you where you are. And when you tolerate disrespect, you're turning off that filter. You're allowing anyone and everyone access, regardless of how they treat you. Respect is not negotiable in a healthy relationship. It is the foundation. Without it, love cannot last. Without it, attraction fades. Without it, you end up giving and giving while receiving very little in return. But when you respect yourself enough to demand respect from others, you send a powerful signal. You tell the world, "I know my value. I know what I bring. And if you can't honor that, you don't get access to me." The truth is, every time you let disrespect slide, you teach him how little effort he needs to give. Every time you call it out and refuse to accept it, you raise the standard, not just for him, but for yourself. And in that choice, you reclaim your power. You remind yourself that your value doesn't come from keeping a man happy at all costs. It comes from holding your dignity intact. So, don't tolerate disrespect, not even once. Because the moment you do, it won't just repeat, it will multiply. But when you stand firm, when you say, "This is who I am, this is what I deserve," you won't have to chase respect. You'll command it. And the right man will rise to meet you there. There is nothing that diminishes your value faster in a man's eyes than abandoning the very standards you once claimed to live by. Standards are not just rules or preferences. They are the reflection of your self-respect. They are the boundaries you set to protect your dignity, your peace, and your worth. But when you begin to lower those standards, piece by piece, all in the name of keeping him happy or keeping him around, you don't just compromise your relationship, you compromise yourself. At first, it seems harmless. You told yourself you'd never tolerate a man who cancels last minute without a valid reason, but he does it and you say, "It's fine." He's just busy. You promised yourself that honesty was non-negotiable, but when he hides something and brushes it off, you let it slide. You swore you would never be with someone who doesn't make effort, but now you find yourself excusing laziness with, "At least he's here." Each of those small exceptions may not feel like a big deal in the moment, but over time, they form a pattern, and that pattern communicates to him and to yourself that your word doesn't hold weight. Men notice when you bend your standards. Even if they don't say it, they feel it. And here's the dangerous truth. People respect what you respect. If you don't honor your own boundaries, why would he? If you claim to have values but constantly set them aside to accommodate him, He doesn't see strength, he sees fear. Fear of losing him, fear of being alone, fear of standing firm in what you know you deserve. And nothing drains your value faster than fear disguised as love. The right man will never be scared of your standards. He will rise to them because he knows your standards don't exist to punish him. They exist to protect you. They exist to filter out those who are not ready, not willing, or not serious about honoring the type of love you deserve. But when you drop those standards, either you blur the line between a man who truly values you and a man who simply takes advantage of your flexibility. Some women believe that lowering their standards will make them easier to love. They think, if I don't demand too much, he'll appreciate me more. If I let this slide, maybe he'll stay. If I don't hold him accountable, either he won't feel pressured. But the opposite is true. The more you lower your standards, the less he values you. Not because he's cruel, but because human nature doesn't cherish what comes too easily. A man respects what costs him effort. A man values what requires him to step up. If you never require him to rise, he will eventually sink lower, and so will your relationship. Neglecting your standards also damages the way you see yourself. Every time you say yes when your heart screams no, you teach yourself that your feelings are irrelevant. Every time you settle for less, you weaken your own trust in your judgment. Eventually, you don't even recognize the woman in the mirror. You see someone who gave away her strength in exchange for temporary comfort. And once you've lost that self-respect, you start to cling even harder to the relationship, hoping he'll give back the validation you stopped giving yourself. But here's the painful truth. Either no one can restore the self-respect you surrendered. That's something only you can rebuild by honoring your own standards again. It takes courage to hold firm. It takes strength to say, this is what I need, this is what I deserve, and if you cannot give it, then I will not settle. That sentence can feel terrifying because it risks loss, but what you risk by lowering your standards is far greater. You risk losing your identity, your dignity, and your voice. And once those are gone, love cannot survive in a healthy way. Love without self-respect is just attachment. A man might test your boundaries, not always maliciously, but to see how much you believe in yourself. If you crumble at the first push, he learns quickly that your words mean nothing. If you stand firm, he learns that you are a woman of value, someone who cannot be swayed by temporary charm or empty promises. Even that realization makes him respect you more deeply than any amount of sacrifice ever could. The truth is, your standards are your compass. They guide you toward relationships that honor who you are and away from those that would slowly break you down. Neglecting them may keep someone in your life for a short time, but it will never keep their respect. Holding them firmly may cause some people to walk away, but the right ones will stay and rise to meet them. So never trade your standards for temporary affection. Never silence your voice for fear of being left. Never convince yourself that lowering the bar will secure his love. Because real love doesn't require you to shrink, it requires you to stand tall. And when you do, the right man will not only see your value, he will cherish it. Because you didn't bend, you didn't break, and you didn't forget who you are. One of the most subtle but destructive habits that kills your value in front of a man is living for his validation. It's when your worth, your happiness, and even your sense of identity start revolving around whether or not he approves of you. At first, it feels harmless, wanting him to notice your effort, compliment your appearance, or reassure you that you matter. But slowly it becomes an addiction. You wait for his words like oxygen. A day without his affirmation feels like rejection, and suddenly your entire mood depends on his response. That's not love, that's dependency. Validation in a relationship is natural to desire. Everyone wants to feel appreciated and seen. But when you make his validation the only measure of your worth, you hand him a power he should never have, the power to control how you see yourself. A man cannot be your mirror. If you look to him to tell you who you are, you will always be at risk of losing yourself the moment he pulls back, gets distracted, or chooses not to reassure you. And when he senses that his approval is the center of your world, his respect for you begins to fade. Why? Because people do not admire those who live only to be approved. They admire those who stand strong in who they are. A man respects a woman who already knows her value before he ever speaks a word about it. He may love to compliment her. He may admire her deeply. But he also knows that his opinion is not what defines her. That independence is magnetic. It shows him that she is with him by choice, not by need. But when he realizes that every action he takes will determine whether you feel worthy or worthless, the weight becomes suffocating. And often, he stops respecting the woman who cannot validate herself without his help. Think about what happens when you constantly look to him for approval. You change the way you dress, not because you love it, but because you want him to notice. You hold back your true thoughts and conversations, afraid that he'll disagree. You stop doing things you love if he doesn't show interest in them. Little by little, you mold yourself into what you think he wants. But here's the catch. The moment you lose yourself, he loses interest. He didn't fall for a version of you built for his comfort. He was drawn to the real, authentic, vibrant you. When you trade that authenticity for validation, the spark dims. The tragedy of living for a man's validation is that you end up chasing a moving target. Some days he'll give you what you crave, other days he won't, and you'll never know why. You'll exhaust yourself trying harder, adjusting more, giving everything just to feel enough. But the more you do that, the less he respects you. Not because he doesn't care, but because you've shown him that you don't see yourself as valuable without his constant approval. And if you don't value yourself, why should he? The alternative is powerful. It's choosing to validate yourself first. It's standing in front of the mirror and reminding yourself that you are beautiful, not because he said so, but because you believe it. It's pursuing your passions, keeping your friendships alive, chasing your dreams, not because he approves, but because they matter to you. It's knowing that your voice has weight even if he disagrees. That kind of self-validation doesn't make you distant. It makes you magnetic. It shows him that you are a whole person, not someone waiting for him to complete you. A man may enjoy being admired, but he deeply respects a woman who doesn't collapse without his praise. When you carry yourself as though you already know your worth, his validation becomes a gift, not a lifeline, and that difference changes everything. It creates balance. It removes desperation. It puts you in a place of strength. He is no longer your mirror. You are your own. And when he sees that, he knows he is with a woman of real value. This doesn't mean you should never want his affirmation. It means you don't live for it. You don't make it the foundation of your worth. You enjoy it when it's there, but you don't crumble when it's absent. You let his words be the icing, not the cake. The cake is built on how you see yourself, how you honor your standards, and how you live your truth. The truth is, if you need his constant validation to feel whole, you'll always feel empty when he pulls away. But when you validate yourself, you rise above that cycle. You create a relationship where his respect grows because he knows you're not in it to survive, you're in it to thrive. And that kind of energy is not just valuable, it's unforgettable. So stop living for his validation. Stop waiting for him to tell you you're enough. You were enough before he ever came into your life, and you'll still be enough if he walks out. The moment you own that truth, you don't just raise your value in his eyes, you raise it in your own. And that's where true power begins. One of the most painful mistakes a woman can make in a relationship is losing herself in the process of loving a man. It doesn't usually happen all at once. It happens gradually, almost invisibly. You begin by making small compromises, giving up little things you used to love because you want more time with him. You cancel a plan with your friends here and there, stop pursuing a hobby you were passionate about, or silence a dream that once kept you inspired because you don't want to disrupt the relationship. And before you realize it, you wake up one day and the woman staring back at you in the mirror doesn't feel like you anymore. You've forgotten who you were before him, and in doing so, you've killed a piece of your value. The truth is, men fall for women who shine in their own light. They are drawn to independence, to passion, to individuality. It's the uniqueness of your identity that captured his attention in the first place. The way you carried yourself, the fire in your goals, the confidence in your laugh, the people you surrounded yourself with, that essence made you magnetic. But when you trade it all away just to orbit around him, you stop being that woman. And once you dim your own light, it's only a matter of time before he stops seeing the glow that attracted him in the first place. Losing your identity doesn't just affect how he sees you, it affects how you see yourself. You begin to feel smaller, less alive, less inspired. Your world becomes narrow, revolving only around his schedule, his needs, his dreams. And even though you're giving everything, there's an emptiness inside you that no amount of his attention can fill. Why? Because you've abandoned the very things that once fueled your soul. Love cannot replace purpose. A man cannot replace your individuality. The irony is that many women forget themselves in an attempt to keep a man close. They think, if I dedicate everything to him, if I make him my world, he'll never leave. But in reality, that's often what drives him away. Men don't fall deeply for shadows. They fall deeply for women who remain whole, women who bring a full life to the relationship rather than giving it up. When he sees that you've sacrificed your identity just to hold on to him, he doesn't feel honored, he feels burdened. And slowly, the respect begins to fade. The strongest relationships are built between two whole individuals who come together to share their lives, not erase them. He should have his passions, and you should have yours. He should chase his dreams, and you should chase yours. You don't lose yourself in him. You walk beside him as equals, both bringing richness to the relationship. That's where admiration grows. That's where true partnership thrives. Ask yourself, who were you before this relationship? What lit you up? What dreams did you have? What friendships did you nurture? What hobbies made you lose track of time? Those pieces of you matter. They are not extras to be cut away when you fall in love. They are the foundation of who you are. And the more you hold on to them, the more valuable you become in his eyes, because he sees that you are not dependent on him to create a life. You already have one. There's nothing more magnetic than a woman who knows herself, who honors her passions, and who refuses to shrink into someone else's shadow. A man doesn't want to be your whole identity. He wants to walk alongside a woman who already knows her worth and her purpose. And the truth is, the moment you reclaim your individuality, you reclaim your power. Don't let love cost you yourself. Don't trade your voice for silence, your dreams for his comfort, or your passions for his attention. Because the man who truly deserves you will never want you to forget who you are. He will want you to keep shining, to keep growing, to keep becoming more of yourself, not less. And if someone asks you to lose your identity to keep them, then they were never worthy of the woman you are becoming. At the end of the day, love is not about losing yourself. It's about finding a way to stay yourself while building something beautiful together. And when you hold on to your identity, your man will not only love you, he will respect you, admire you, and cherish the strength it takes to remain whole in a world that constantly asks women to shrink. Never forget, the greatest gift you can give to any relationship is not your sacrifice, but your authenticity. At the end of the day, your value in front of a man is never about how much you can sacrifice, how much you can chase, or how much you can bend yourself to fit into his world. Your value comes from knowing who you are, standing firm in your standards, and refusing to apologize for your worth. The 5, 6, or even 10 little habits that chip away at your dignity all boil down to one truth: when you stop respecting yourself, others will too. Apologizing makes you smaller. Chasing, instead of attracting, drains your power. Tolerating disrespect teaches him how little effort he needs to give. Neglecting your standards tells him you don't believe in your own word. Living for his validation places your worth in his hands. And forgetting your identity makes you disappear completely. Each one of these choices doesn't just lower your value in his eyes. They lower it in your own. But here's the good news: you hold the power to change it all. The moment you decide to honor yourself, to live unapologetically, to stand by your boundaries, and to shine in your own identity, you raise your value instantly. The right man will never be intimidated by your strength. He will be drawn to it. He will respect it, and he will cherish it. So never trade your dignity for temporary attention. Never shrink yourself to fit into someone else's life, because the woman who knows her value is unforgettable. And when you refuse to kill your own worth, you won't have to fight for respect. It will naturally follow you. Remember this: you are not valuable because of how much you can do for him. You are valuable because of who you are. Stand in that truth, and the right man will never want to let it go.